Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the AI for CEO podcast show. Today, I have a very special guest with me. Therese Miclot helps technical experts become confident, clear communicators so they can lead, grow, and scale with trust. She's worked with fast-growing teams and technical leaders, and her specialty is that she bridges the gap between brilliant ideas and the humans who carry them out. One of the things that really stood out to me on her profile is that she says high achievers don't magically become high impact leaders. And any of us who's worked with high impact teams, you know that we have had lots of high achievers as our bosses or seniors or supervisors. And they may not have been the high impact leaders that we all wanted when we were in that growing phase of our careers. But I love how Therese helps those high achievers become the leaders that they need to be in their teams so they can perform better. And the way she does that is she helps them create a space where they can practice, reflect, and build the skills that nobody has taught them, which is so interesting because we all step into those roles thinking that we'll figure it out. But the truth is that you have to achieve those skills, you have to build them before you step into those roles so you can do the justice to the teams you're serving. And in the end, it's all about waking up, becoming the version 10.0 of yourself, and then serving the people who need you in those roles. So please help me welcome Therese Miclot. And I cannot wait to get started. Welcome, Therese.
Oh, thank you. This is going to be a great conversation. I can tell already.
Awesome. So I want to start with something that I read on your bio, which is how you started on your own journey of this is when you thought leadership is so essential and this is what I'm going to do. Help us walk through what that transformation was like for you.
Sure. Well, my transformation started when I was a teenager, really. I am one of three children, the middle child, and my father died rather unexpectedly, pretty quickly, and it left our family in a bit of turmoil. My mother, who did not have a degree or advanced education or a lot of career experience, now had to be the provider for our family in a new way. And I watched her come home every day defeated primarily because she worked for bad bosses. And these were people who were experts. They were experts in finance or IT or their technical area, but they did not know how to lead. And so there I sat watching my mom come home every day. Instead of feeling excited and as though she could give 100% to her job and more, really struggled. And that left an impression on me. And long story short, I went about just wondering, well, then how do leaders become leaders? How does this happen? And that took me down the path to getting my undergrad and graduate degree in industrial organizational psychology. And that's how it all started.
Very nice. And then help us walk through you've been doing this for more than 25 years now.
Yes.
What have you seen as common patterns in high achievers? I know the training is one part, but where is the gap here? Like they have gone to A-League schools and then they've done a lot of education training already. Where do you see is the gap when someone as high achiever as you've worked with, when they transition to a role of being a high impact leader, where is the gap? How do you fill it? Walk us through your process.
Sure. Well, I think most of us follow a trajectory in our career. We start as doers. Even if we're coming from elite schools, we're learning our craft, our profession. Then we evolve into being super doers. And super doers are those of us that have now really mastered our technology or our domain. And so we are relied on. We are known for quality work. We are the person that everyone goes to when they need expertise or answers or help because we're reliable. We produce, we know how to create good outcomes. The problem is that we get stuck from super doer to leader, because it does require a different skill set than the one that we were rewarded for all this time, being the expert, the answer, the go-to person. And now you're expected to no longer be that in whole, but to develop that in other people. And that's where a lot of us get trapped and burnt out, frankly. I work with a lot of technical leaders at that phase where they're trying to muscle it through. They're trying to now just keep going and doing more and working more hours and responding to all of those slacks and emails and demands. And they're hitting a point where they're even questioning if they should have gone down this track of being a leader.
Yeah. And I want to double click on something you said. You had to go from super doer to this leader that you were never trained to do. And the
Mhm.
reason why that's so important is because we all have this social conditioning
Mhm.
that goes along all the way from when you were a kid to when you became an adult, and then you got into the position that you were in, and then you became the leader. But where
Mhm.
was that training that was supposed to happen? And
Mhm.
it's this biased subconscious conditioning that happens along the way. And this is something that you keep doing the things that you were rewarded to do, which I don't think, I know we do this all day every day. This is not something we take a pause, step back, and think about it. So when you work with those high achievers and you lead them through a transition of becoming the high impact leaders, what specifically is it you work with
Sure.
them?
Well, the first is mindset. There's an identity shift that has to happen before you can have the capacity to change your behavior. Because if your identity was always, I'm the smartest person in the room, I'm the one who can figure it out, I'm the one who can do it, then your first job is to change how you view yourself and the value you're adding. And I believe everything starts from inside first. So that's where we begin the work, is identifying the shift you have to make in your point of view and your mindset from being valued and seen as the expert to now being the leader. So there's a mental shift that it has to happen first. Then I think most people are ready for skills. And one of the places I work with a lot of technical leaders is the skill of delegation, because this goes hand in hand with this idea that we hold on to the things that we know we're expert in, that we know we can probably do it better, we could do it faster. And so that ties to our mindset shift of rethinking that point of view, but then also having the skill to know, how do I let things go? How do I transfer things to other people in a way where it doesn't make me stay up all night worrying about if it'll get done, but helps me create capacity to work on the more important things, the higher strategic initiatives that need my attention now.
Yeah. And I'm so glad that you went that route, because when I started my own business, even before that, when I was leading two engineering teams and our teams were developing those products. One
Mhm.
thing I struggled as soon as I stepped into that leadership role is, how do you let go?
Mhm.
And once you understand that delegation is an art and it's there to help you, you quickly realize, I cannot scale the way I want to unless I learn how to delegate. And this is what I still see many business owners do as I talk to them. This is the first thing we attack in our coaching program as well, is if you don't start delegating, you cannot scale, because
Mhm.
you cannot scale your time, period, full
That's
stop.
right.
You have 24 hours in a day, probably 8 hours reserved for recreation in the evening, 8 hours of you recharging and sleeping, and then where is the third of the time goes? It's in your work. How much can you get done in
Yes.
those 8 hours? And anybody who wants to scale, which is why we all are here learning about AI,
Mhm.
installing those in our businesses, and
Mhm.
helping other businesses install AI and become the AI first business.
Mhm.
If you do not know what to delegate, eliminate,
Yeah.
then or automate, how are you
Mhm.
going to scale? So that's a good
Mhm.
segue to the next segment I wanted to go
Mhm.
to. Once you, hypothetically, let's say
Mhm.
someone just started working with you and they have that mindset shift already on day
Mhm.
one.
Mhm.
Now, because we're in this age of AI and we're all trying to get there 100x faster, which is again a beautiful thing, by the way, because if you were to take your business to that level in 10 years,
Right.
and now with the help of AI, you can get there in 2 years, like, why wouldn't you want that, right? So, first resistance I see is the leader has the vision. The
Mhm.
CEO sits down among people who
Yeah.
have those visions, all day, every day. They hang out with people who are 10 steps ahead of them.
Mhm.
But then when they come back to the team hasn't seen that side of the
Right.
conversation.
Right.
So they're completely unaware unless the leader brings back those conversations and we start the training and whatnot.
Mhm.
So you as the business owner, as the founder, as the CEO, see the power
Mhm.
of bringing in AI and helping you scale, but your team doesn't see it. So you're on board, but the team isn't. How do you help them with that
Yes.
shift?
Yes. You're right. I think that CEOs and senior execs who are making large scale decisions about direction are 5, 10 steps ahead of the people in their organization. And so we have to remember that when we come back into the organization and say, hey, good news, we're going to be integrating AI or automating this process, it shouldn't be a surprise that sometimes the first reaction is objection or lots of questions or skepticism. And so the first place that I would recommend leaders to focus is one, step into the awareness of how other people might be receiving it. You're excited. You see the possibilities, but you have to translate that to people so they understand it for them. And I think the skill that you need more than ever in this age is the skill of listening, because we often can project our excitement and assume that, with the head nods and people are, they're going to try to accommodate, that they may not really be on board. And you may not know that until 3 weeks after implementation, when you're frustrated with, why is it going so slow? I thought we agreed we were going to hit this milestone. And so the skill I think that future proofs CEOs and executives in the age of AI is the human skill of being really effective listeners so that you can get underneath the resistance that often people aren't going to verbalize until they have a real sense that you genuinely want to hear them.
I love that. Yes. And I think as leaders in general, once you start listening, that's where you are seeing where the gaps are. And then you
Mhm.
can start to fill. Otherwise, you probably have 10 different assumptions
Yep.
about why people are staying with you versus leaving you
Right.
versus why they're resisting a particular change. One
Mhm.
framework that I've used in my business in with my team and also when we do AI audits with other businesses is we help them start small and
Mhm.
give them something so digestible. And I
Yeah.
like to call it top of the top one automation that
Mhm.
will have the lowest effort, but
Mm.
it'll give you the highest ROI.
Yeah.
Once you look at that quadrant and you start to classify
Yeah.
what am I trying to automate and
Mhm.
what is the effort in automating this workflow
Mhm.
versus what is the ROI. If you start there and you start small, maybe 3, 4 weeks of implementation, but then you have done the implementation the right way.
Yeah.
You have started to collect data within 2 or 3 weeks.
Mhm.
You'll see the data speaks for itself
Mhm.
and then go back to the team and show them that they're part of this journey.
Mhm.
You're not eliminating them. You're just figuring out what are the tasks that they don't enjoy. They would love to offload to someone else.
Yeah.
They just use tech there. So
Yes.
we free up time on your calendar and
Mhm.
then you go do high leverage things by upskilling yourselves. And
Mhm.
it all starts with tying our goals together. What are your goals? What are my goals? What are my business's goals?
Mhm.
If we do this together, does this move all of us forward in the same direction? And are we trying to get to the same point? And that small start in the beginning, now your team is with you and they see the value and then they want to do it with you going forward.
Yeah. I love two things about what you just said. One is that it is a proof of concept. And with anything new and unknown, people are weary, people are skeptical. And first evidence of, oh, this actually helps me or improves the situation or relieves the pain that I'm feeling is the proof of concept that most people need or want to look at it through a more accurate lens. The other thing that you said that I think goes a long way is when people feel like they're a part of it, that it's not happening to them. And so the more a pilot or a first project can involve people, so it's not something that's happening somewhere else outside of them, the more they're going to feel like they have their thumbprint on it. And the more they're going to feel inclined to accept it and accelerate through the next round or the next phase of AI implementation.
Yeah. And I use this analogy which cracks people up. Everybody thinks that they have to go run the marathon tomorrow, starting from
Yeah.
zero. But
Yeah.
you have to go put on the shoes and start with the mile one tomorrow.
Yeah. And I think in most CEOs should be thinking of it as that their organization is like a car, and you've got to get everybody in the car to then be able to hit the gas pedal. And the problem is when you run too fast without getting everybody on board, it might give you a false sense of progress. But you'll start to see the wheels come off because people are being dragged behind, or they're opening up the car door and running out. And so it behooves all of us to consider, how do we get people on board first? And I think for busy CEOs, it can feel like it's a real test of your patience, because that's going to take time. Because to listen and really understand people's concerns or objections early on, that's going to feel like a speed bump. And one, you have to be aware that it's a natural cycle for humans to initially see something new as a worry. And that's why that skill of listening is the number one place to focus as a leader.
Absolutely. Good. So the next question I want to touch on is, how have you been using AI in your business, and where was the breakthrough that you had with this piece of tech?
Mhm.
And I want to lead that into as a message into my next question.
Sure. Sure. I think I started probably like most of us, that it's become a replacement for Google. I have these things in my pantry. What should I make for dinner? I think that was the very first. And now I'm seeing it as a coworker in a way, not just someone, a place to take my questions. In fact, I'm developing some custom GPTs that will sit alongside the work I do as a supplement, as a way to accelerate people through some of the areas they need to develop. So my mindset is evolving as fast as I'm learning about how to see it as a coworker, a colleague almost, as opposed to just a search engine.
One thing I think when we did the questionnaire, the point when you realized that you were the bottleneck.
Yeah.
And I think that ties really back into how we started is
Mhm.
the art of delegation and how you master that. And that identity is not there anymore. And once you have that shift, that's when you start to see, if I'm the bottleneck here, I just need to pull myself out and have
Mhm.
install something else or someone else
Right.
who can do this. Walk us through how you came to that
Sure.
and how did that help you?
Yeah, I don't think I'm unique in that way. I was leading a new team, and, I was younger than even many of the people that were my direct reports. And so my mindset was around, I need quick wins. I need to show value. I need to be credible, and all these things wrapped into how I needed to show up. Well, what happened was, as we talked earlier, I just kept everything to myself. I didn't want to overburden people. I would justify why I wasn't giving work to others. And I was at the precipice of burnout. And at the same time, what I realized was, my boss isn't impressed with this. I'm not winning any new accolades now that I've made that jump from super doer to leader. So that's when it became the epiphany. Like, if I don't change and solve for getting out of the way, then this is going to lead to a problem for me personally, but for my team. And so the way I did it was, I started to assess and look at, what am I holding on to that someone else can do. In fact, I put it as a sticky note on my monitor every day, because I think we often operate in autopilot, and we just answer that email. We just respond to that request, instead of, and what I trained my brain to do was, wait, before I just jump in to answer, who else could be doing this? Who else should I be developing to do this? And I needed that visual reminder to be a more intentional, and not just autopilot running through my day and working, 10 plus hours a day.
And I love that, because as a founder, you have to put a price tag on your hourly rate. And that goes
Mhm.
such a long way, because anytime you find yourself working on something which does not justify that hourly rate, you
Yeah.
should just really not be doing it. And that's where the delegation and what
Mhm.
you can delegate and automate or eliminate, that
Yeah.
just framework works beautifully there.
Yeah.
So Because this is the AI First CEO podcast show, I wanted to get a bite-sized idea from you is what is that one workflow that you're using daily, weekly, monthly basis that's giving you that time back and that could serve as an example for our audiences? Yeah, I could exactly build something like this for myself.
I wouldn't say I have it in AI yet, but I know that's going to be my next step. But I am more intentional about how I start my week. In fact, I used to have the fear of Sundays because what's going to happen the following week of a tsunami of work. So here's what I do now. On Sunday, I identify what are my top goals for this week by day and then for the week. And so one, it keeps me focused on my highest priorities and not get sidetracked by all of the demands and the noise that's going to happen. And so I think there's lots of tools and technology out there, but my methodology is what's the big goal for the week? How do I break that down? How do I make that on my calendar as a priority? And so it doesn't get bumped by the interrupts, by the constant, Slack messages and things like that. So I think we have to be really focused on how we protect and guard our time.
Yeah. And that is such a good reminder because people think they can bring in AI to anything and everything that they are doing. But it changes the game when you install AI and automate something that's already working predictably in your business, in your life. And once you take that manual process where someone could just come in, follow steps ABC, get to a predictable outcome, once you have that, I want you to protect it because it needs to be protected. And then you go put AI on top of it. And now you can run for that workflow 10 times faster, or maybe in some cases 50x faster. But it has to have a system which is proven again to work manually first.
Right.
So I love that you have that process down. Great. So I know a lot of people are going to get so much value out of this episode. If they were to find you and figure out a way to work with you, where should they go? And what is it that you can help them achieve?
Sure. Well, the first place is to link in with me on LinkedIn. I have a newsletter called The Shift. So it's making that shift from super doer to leader. I post every week, multiple times a week on these kinds of topics. So if you're looking for quick hits and quick ways to be reminded of things or stay focused on this shift, then follow me there. My website as well, theresemiclot.com. And then I co-authored a book called The Facilitation Advantage. It's designed for leaders and it's around these skills for leading in this future. And that book is available, anywhere where you buy your books, called The Facilitation Advantage.
Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing those resources, Therese. I am so honored that I got to sit down with you and share your story. And now I know when you get DMs from people, and I know that they're in safe hands with you, getting all the value and the transformation that you can help them achieve. So thank you for taking the time. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. This was great.
Thank you for anybody who's listening. We'll be back next week. So don't forget to tune in again. Thank you for spending time with us. Have a great week.